Welcome to Updated Autopsy Report, a podcast from Yotze Ben and Friends, where we read and watch the inspirations behind Ace Attorney. I'm your host, Ben, and with me today is Dessy.
Hello.
And two good friends of ours, Tiago.
Yo.
And Rose.
Hi.
We're all longtime fans of Ace Attorney. We hope that through our perspectives, it'll reveal new details and provide interesting commentary for all the media we discuss. Our intro music is by Lace, and you can find all her other work at leiss.bandcamp.com. Today, we are discussing the first Columbo episode, Murder by the Book. It's our boy, Columbo. You might say, well, hey, Ben, this is technically not the first Columbo episode, and you'd be right. There were two Columbo pilots prior to this. However, this is the first real episode of the first real season as they started putting out these TV movies. So given the almost prototypical nature of Columbo in those two prior pilots, I opted to start here, where he starts to take his, almost fully congealed form of Columbo.
Scruffaluffagus.
That's one way to put it, I suppose.
I mean, we can have a big fight about if a pilot is the first episode or not, and I feel like my stance will change for my own personal convenience, and therefore I can't be trusted.
I don't want to fight. I'm choosing pacifism.
The very first pilot, Prescription Murder, also has a very buttoned up and very cleaned up Columbo.
Right? That's Columbo if he was doing the "Hi, how are ya" thing from the SpongeBob,
extremely specific yet vivid.
Yeah, that's truly that's "Hi, how are ya" Columbo, and it's strange. It is taking a rat and dipping it in oil to make it like the hair gel.
I don't like that.
And neither do I. That's why prototype Columbo is strange to me.
Yeah, it's not good to do to rats.
That's what I'm saying.
It's fascinating, from an archaeological perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But for our purpose, like I said, we might go back to those at some point and revisit them as a curiosity. But for now, I figured it was more important to get to the essence of Columbo, and this first episode is really good at that. Columbo started in the late 60s, was when these first when the first pilot came out was 1968, and then this first episode aired in 1971 in September. And this let's start with some of the basics. Is the creators, Richard Levinson and William Link, they were big fans of murder mysteries and that kind of stuff, and eventually started working on radio plays and other scripts, and then got into TV, and then eventually got into co-creating and producing Columbo as well. They did a lot of other stuff. They were also we'll get to this also in the future. This might be kind of our next link, is Ellery Queen, who is a pseudonym for two people who were detective fiction writers as well, and made a lot of, kind of classic mystery novels that influenced Levinson and Link as well. So it is all interconnected, and all these people were kind of influencing each other, which is kind of fun. So yeah, obviously Columbo was kind of their big thing that they did, but there's one other big show that they worked on for sure, that I think that has stood the test of time, and that's Murder, She Wrote, which they worked on together with Peter Fisher. So you can see the trend here.
Yeah.
But yeah, they did also some Ellery Queen adaptations. They did Mannix, which was another detective television show that ran for 8 seasons.
I didn't know they did Murder, She Wrote, but that makes perfect sense, and I'm a buffoon for not thinking so.
So yeah, so here their fingers are in everything, right? This first Columbo episode, Murder by the Book, was technically not going to be the first episode originally. It was going to be, I believe, the one immediately following it, which was death lends a hand, I believe. But they swapped it at the last second because they felt that this one was a better introduction to the character.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing for this one here is you all probably noticed it. If you didn't know it when you watched the episode, is in big block yellow letters, directed by Steven Spielberg.
It seems crazy that they would they have what is possibly one of the famous guys of all time.
One of the most guys of all time.
One of the most guys of all times, and they go, yeah, you can have the second one. That's
right. Well, and you got to keep in mind here, this was when Steven Spielberg was 24.
Oh, true. He was a different person.
He had not done any of his big movies yet, right? Let me pull up his filmography here. But he hadn't done Jaws yet, right? Which was kind of like his big break, right?
Mm-hmm.
We know about Jaws.
Yeah, let's see here. Jaws was 1975. So that was 4 years after this, right?
Mm-hmm. As math would tell us, 4 years after 1971.
He had done little things here and there of short films, obviously student films. He did his first feature film, Duel, was in 1971, in the same year that came out, which was an extended theatrical version of the TV movie of the same name. So he was coming out of TV and starting to move into theatrical right when he did this. So it's kind of fun to have somebody who has so much prestige now and see one of their early works here. Peter Falk, who plays Columbo, of course. I'm sure we'll talk more about him in a moment. But he had to approve Steven Spielberg for this episode because he was still a relatively young and up-and-coming director. So he got to meet with him and chatted with him and said, yeah, this kid seems all right. Sure, he can direct this episode. And that ended up being the premiere episode for Columbo.
Thank God he said something.
If you don't know, these are TV movies. They aired as part of the NBC Mystery Movie program, and originally for the 2 pilot episodes, and then came over to ABC.
In case you forgot, if you were around in 1970.
Yeah, and then the ABC Mystery Movie, where, different times they would air a different movie, and sometimes it was Columbo, because Columbo was technically a TV movie rather than a TV show proper, because it ended up often being a little over an hour long.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the table setting.
Need 1 hour
Columbo.
to destroy my rich person.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah, how fast can you do it?
Yeah.
Columbo can do it pretty quick. Murder by the book. We meet our wonderful villain in Jack Cassidy. God, he's so good.
Delightful.
And he plays Ken Franklin, who is one half of a murder mystery novelist team. And he decides that he is going to kill his writing partner, Jim Ferris, played by Martin Milner, because they're splitting up. They're kind of separating and going their separate ways. And the thing is that Jim actually does all the writing here. And so he decides to...
Ken's publicity, man.
Yeah, so this is going to leave him, destitute. He's going to be... because he doesn't actually have the writing talent, so he cannot
He's a big
continue.
Spender. Also,
yeah, and he's a big spender.
Big
Yep,
show
he's
of
built
how
his
this
own
man
cabin.
is a raging alcoholic, in the first 10 minutes.
He just likes to
Yeah.
drink.
I know, and I do love and appreciate that, but this is the other characters are going I don't know, man, maybe we cool it on the champagne. It's 2:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah, and he's like, come on, let's celebrate.
Yeah, he makes the guy do the cheers 3 times. He's like, cheers to this, and then he does it again. I'm like, bro.
He's thirsty.
He's got things to celebrate.
Yes, if I was rich, I would be drinking a lot of champagne.
If I had a lot of money and had no responsibilities, I would drink a lot and play video games every day, and also have fun.
Get high.
I didn't want to say anything that would incriminate me.
We live in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
You're right. That's very incriminating.
So Ken decides to kill his writing partner, and he comes up with an elaborate plan to do it. That involves inviting him out to his cabin, and then convincing him to lie to his wife that he's staying late at the office and writing. He swings back around, messes up the office to make it look like somebody was rummaging through all the stuff or possibly
he does it
robbing
before.
it.
He does it before they go to the cabin. Very important.
Yeah, he
For
goes,
the
"Oh
alibi."
man, damn! I left my lighter back in the office. I gotta quick go back and get it." And then comes back down. They drive off to the cabin together, and then at the cabin, immediately after he convinces his friend to lie to his wife, he puts a bullet in his head.
While he's still on the phone.
Yes, to be clear, so
Important.
that his wife hears the bullet, the shot,
The gunshot.
and goes, "Oh my god, my husband's been shot."
And he's at the
just said
office.
he was at his office.
There's that really good shot where, they're just sort of like, oh yeah, we're breaking up, we're opening up the cabin for the season, and you don't realize it until the camera does like an overhead shot and you see his friend sitting on the sofa to make the phone call, and the sofa is covered in clear plastic.
Yes.
The kind that you would cover your furniture in if you're going away for the winter. But
Or
also
you're
the
a
kind
grandmother and never take it off.
the kind that you would put on your sofa if you were going to kill somebody on it and get blood everywhere.
Yeah.
It's just a really good, it's
Have
quick,
you ever heard
but
of
it's
Huey Lewis
so
in the
good.
news?
There's a scene earlier in the episode where Ken pulls out a gun on his partner, and his partner's like, "All right, funny prank, but you have no gloves on, your finger's not on the trigger, and the barrel's empty. Nice one." And then Ken goes, "Oh, I'm an awful prankster." But by this time when they are in the cabin, he does have the gloves on. And it is like, oh shit, this is where he's gonna do it.
And his finger is on the trigger. And there's a bullet in the chamber.
And there's a bullet in the gun. And I was like, oh god, he's not joking. I like that scene a lot in particular.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can get into some more of it later, but man, it is really fun to just see a lot of Spielberg's later directorial techniques creeping through even now. And there's just some real good camera work. I noticed that there's a lot of good blocking in this. A lot of good shots in which characters are carefully arranged, so that one's up close, and then as they move around the room, like say walking around a desk or something, the other character comes into front focus while the other character goes in the background. Gives you a chance, especially during the cabin scene, right, to essentially let Ken, put on the, basically be like Jaws behind Jim as he's coming around on the sofa before loading his gun.
Foreshadowing.
So it's kind of cool.
Cinema, baby.
Yeah.
This Spielberg guy's got some stuff,
Yeah, you might turn out
places.
to you might turn out to be somebody at some point.
So later, there is he kills, his partner, right? Puts the body in the trunk, and I guess I kind of skipped over as they were going up. He stops by the corner store, grocery store, that is right up in this
small family-owned store.
In this, up in this resort area where all these cabins belong, up in I believe they'd say specifically where it was, Northern California, right?
Yeah, it's outside of LA.
It's outside of San Diego, actually, very specifically.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
outside of San Diego. Right. Okay.
They
San
do
Diego
mention
mentioned.
San Diego mentioned.
Wow.
So,
oh my
yes.
god, I can't believe they mentioned somewhere in California. That's crazy.
It's fucked up. Well, they mentioned somewhere in California, and it was in LA. And in the
Right.
context of it, it was pretty much just to explain that San Diego and LA not that close to each other.
Not pretty far.
The distance does matter.
Yeah,
Yes.
this is what's stopping me from hanging out with Iroh.
Dude.
So the grocery store owner, she is infatuated with Ken. And
Mr. Franklin!
Oh my god, Death Note!
Jesus. Take it back.
Yeah.
That's all I can fucking hear.
Oh, that actually got me.
Scary.
And she, you know, we don't realize this at the time, necessarily, or at least Ken doesn't realize it at the time, but she notices that Jim is in the car along with them, even though Ken says he's alone. Interesting. So
Lying ass bitch.
she notices this, and that will be important for later. And then, yes, Columbo shows up for the very first time, 18 minutes into the episode, as the police are investigating Jim's office. Jim's wife's there. She's distraught because she heard her husband get shot all over the phone, but he's not here, and there's no evidence of any murder happening in the office, right? But Columbo says, you know, ma'am, you've been through a lot. Let me drive you home, and I'm sure we'll figure things out. So in probably I think this is just a delightful scene as like establishing Columbo as a character. He drives her home and he starts to make her an omelet.
He's like, oh, I'm so
in
nice.
her
Let me
own
make you an
kitchen.
omelet and let me use every fucking dish in your entire house to make one omelet. He dirties like 4 bowls to make 3 eggs.
And
Four.
she never eats the omelet, listeners. I was watching.
Yeah.
I was watching very carefully. Because I feel like full disclosure, we've all watched this episode before.
Mhm.
But it had been a long time for me, certainly, since I had watched it. So I was like, oh, I kind of remember this scene, but like, wait, does she eat those eggs? She does not.
She does not.
Very
No.
sad.
So yeah, it's just great because he's just kind of again just bumbling around her kitchen. Again, yeah, he's like he cracks the eggs open and he instead of just like saying like I don't know, like I would just throw the eggshells right into the trash, but instead he needs to put the eggshells in a bowl first for some reason.
And he needs to grate the cheese into a separate bowl. Like just grate it into the bowl with the eggs because then he immediately puts the cheese in the bowl with the eggs.
Oh, okay. I mean, I add my cheese like. I add it like
start cooking the eggs
whilst
first.
I'm cooking the
Yeah.
eggs. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to mix it in with as the eggs are starting to cook and solidify. But
Yeah, because
anyway,
they cook at different temperatures.
So again, it's just she's there, she's kind of, you know, distraught, and he's just helping her out, you know, and making her this goofy ass omelet. Peter Falk, he reads the line wrong here, which is kind of fun. He says, I'll tell you what the secret is to good omelet. No eggs, just milk. And then she laughs at this. And if you can just obviously interpret it as it is, like that's a weird thing that doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
The original script line was the secret is just eggs, no milk. But he just misspoke and they left it in.
I mean, it was funnier that way.
He's just so
Mhm.
charming.
So yeah, then immediately, the second that Columbo meets Ken for the first time, he
Because
kind
Ken
of
drives home from San Diego, many miles.
yes, many miles, he drives back and arrives, you know, there and meets let's see here, Joanna is the wife's name, meets her. And yes, and then Columbo as well. And Columbo immediately zeroes in on him. It's just like, you know, it's really interesting that you drove all the way back. You know, if I was in a rush, I'd fly back, or, you know, that kind of thing. So that's fun. And we start to get him immediately poking and prodding and annoying Ken in what is now, you know, classic Columbo fashion. The next step, kind of that I'll skip over some of the details, but essentially the Lily, the grocery store owner who witnessed that Jim was with Ken on the drive up, now shows up at you know, and talks to Ken and says, "Hey, listen, I'm an ambitious woman. You sure you don't want to go on a dinner date with me? I might have seen some things." And he's like, "Oh,
I want
yeah?
to talk about a witness.
things. Yeah, she's like, yeah, a witness who might have seen something. He's like, all right, fine. But he plays the part, right? Even though he clearly does not like this woman who's infatuated with him, and she's willing to like still like play ball with him, you know, even though he's now a murderer, and she's pretty sure that he killed Jim. She's still like, you know, maybe I'm still willing to, you know, be with you.
Ladies, do not do this.
I do want $15,000.
Good for her.
And Jim's like, okay. Or Ken's like, okay, sure, I'll give you $15,000.
We immediately pulled our phones out and did the conversion as soon as she said that.
How much is it?
How much is it?
Tiago and I just watched this together. Like,
it was like 163,000 or something like that.
Yeah, it was over $100,000. So
I hate inflation.
So yeah, it's not nothing, and he doesn't bat an eye. He says okay. So he withdraws the money. They go on there. They go back to her place then, and have a lot of wine or champagne.
The French.
And he's not, of course, drinking much, but she is. And he's like, well, what if we went out on a boat together out in the middle of the lake? And she's like, listen, I like you a lot, Ken, but it still wouldn't be very wise of me to do that. And he's like, aw, shucks. You know, that's really cruel of you to say. What do you think? I'm giving you the money. What's the problem? And then immediately sneaks around behind her and clobbers her over the head with an empty wine bottle.
Kills her.
Yeah, just kills her outright. And dumps her body in the lake then.
Mm-hmm. It's
sloppy.
Yeah, we can get into that part later. You know, yeah, good point. I should wait a little bit.
Well, we're almost there at the end, but yes. So he tries to make it look like she accidentally, you know, fell off the boat while drunk.
Yeah, one out, got drunk, capsized.
And but then of course Columbo starts, you know, bothering him, picking at all of his little statements and every
Columbo
little action that he did over the last 2 days. He visits his cabin. Yeah, he comes to his house and his cabin.
Yeah.
Both times. He's like, oh man, some poor woman died in the lake. Damn, that's crazy. Did you know her or didn't you? Right. And you know, after many back and forths, you know, and also talking to Joanna, to Jim's wife some more, Columbo starts to realize, like, oh, you know, Jim wrote down a lot of his ideas on whatever piece of scratch paper he had, wherever he could. And as Jim's office is getting packed up and moved out, Columbo sneaks in and goes through some of the paperwork there at the end, and it is revealed that he found the exact steps for the murder written down on a sheet of paper, word for word, because the murder that Ken did was actually, you know, written down by Jim. So it was his idea. At first, we're led to believe that it was Jim's idea, right? And so again, Ken stole another idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then at the very last second, after Ken admits to it, you know, and finally is like, damn, you caught me. That is when he goes, you know, funny thing, that was my one idea, the only good one I ever had. And it was just Jim that wrote it down.
Idiot wrote it down. Motherfucker wrote it down.
Which, you know, once again, if you just abided by Shut the Fuck Up Friday, you might have been all right.
You really have.
How many times did I say that during the whole show?
I mean, you can't. That's the thing about a Columbo villain, or perhaps we might turn him back around an Ace Attorney witness. You can't shut the fuck up. You gotta have your breakdown.
Exactly.
Oh, my virus threat protection. That was so loud. I hope that didn't come through.
Dude, I'm glad you're protecting yourself from viruses.
Thanks.
If you got a virus, I'd be so upset.
I would be sad.
I think a wonderful thing about Columbo is obviously we could do the like, oh yeah, it's like vintage retro, like 70s style, everyone looks nice and all that stuff. Columbo himself looks extremely disheveled. He's
I don't know. I thought
considered...
the house kind of looks like ass too.
Okay, well, that's just like your opinion, but fair play. The thing about Columbo specifically is that, like, he is considered a pest by most of the time. He's only interacting with the murderer, who we know who it is from the beginning, like an Ace Attorney. Sometimes, not all the time, but
yeah, like the first couple cases, maybe.
First couple cases.
Case.
And it's obviously, to me, it's obvious that Columbo's the direct inspiration for Gumshoe, because fucking look
visually, for real.
Visually, absolutely.
Like, the down to like being disheveled, always coming in with the last minute with a couple questions, like
the long, like, kind of grody coat.
The grody
the
coat,
the messy hair, like, that's him. That's
yeah.
the look.
So, like, it's interesting what characteristics Gumshoe lacks, which is the basically
Smarts.
the questioning part of, like, the asking all the questions and stuff like that. That's because that's up to us, the player. We must be the one who is also a pest to everyone that we're talking to. And sometimes the witnesses will go, "I'm not talking to you. Get away from me. I'll see you in fucking court." And honestly, if most of these Columbo villains had the time to do that, they'd probably be okay. But unfortunately, they keep entertaining this guy who, frankly, sometimes gives off wild sentences that makes it very obvious that he's going to accuse you of murder. The fucking...
And then he's always like, no, I'm a little guy. No, I would never. Of course I'm not implying anything.
Oh, I would never. No,
I'm so sorry that you took that away. I didn't intend you to. I am accusing you of murder, though.
Yeah, isn't it weird how there's, like...
Meanwhile, the other guy's, like, the whole time that he's talking to Ken is basically putting him down. He's like, oh, you can't afford a place out here.
Yeah.
And all that other stuff. Every time he like talks to Columbo, he's always telling him how, like, you're poor, you're dirty, you have a shitty job.
No one likes you.
You don't understand the finer things in life.
You're smelly.
If you were as smart as Mrs. Melville, you would have, figured this out by now.
Honestly,
Mrs. Melville, of course, my invented character.
Yeah, my OC, my fucking OC.
Who's so smart.
What if she's actually dog shit at her job? I've
She's
never
not
read
real.
her.
I guess they probably wouldn't have sold any books.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I've never met her, so...
You gotta remember, Jim was the one doing all the writing anyway, so...
True, Jim was doing all the writing.
Jimbo.
Jim Bab. It's... I think another interesting part about this is that literally every time that Columbo and the killer can interact, it is pretty much like Columbo is always choosing the press option on every statement. Literally, whenever Ken said something, he'd go, "Oh, what did you mean by that?" And the newspaper. Did you bring in the newspaper as well? And you opened the newspaper. Why?
The bills are so important. Why would you open those?
Yeah, like... It doesn't... We never really get the internal dialogue of Columbo, but it seems like every time he's talking to a killer, he goes like, "You fucking idiot, why would you do that?" What do you mean? But like...
And then they think they're clever coming up with an excuse.
Oh god, yeah.
Yeah, you just gotta keep pressing the witness until they say something contradictory.
Literally every time.
Again, shut the fuck up Friday, right there.
Shut the fuck up Friday.
Yep.
I love Columbo.
Yeah, listen, there's no shortage of people singing like Peter Falk's praises over the years.
He was, oh my god, if I was born in the 70s or the 60s or whatever, he's so good looking. He's so handsome.
He does just an incredible job at the pacing of the conversation, the intonation of his questions, right? It rides that perfect line between, playing the fool, but of course not actually being the fool. It's just it's really good the whole way through. I also really love Jack Cassidy. He's just so good at just a smarmy, like shitty rich guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And takes every opportunity to play it up in every way. Like you were saying earlier, Dessy, with him just
Down talking
down to Columbo, saying like, you couldn't afford a cabin
when
up
he's
here.
trashing,
Not even to rent.
When he's trashing the office and he does his like little thing where he like brushes off his jacket. Tiago and I were both like, "Woo!"
Ooh.
Yeah,
He's
We were just having a laugh.
His
It's
style
good.
is
It's
actually
nice to watch things together.
no, his style was on point. The fucking sweater vest with the blazer combo with the elbow
I
pads.
love
My
it.
God,
yeah.
we used to be a fucking society. Like, we used to.
You can
mean
still wear that
something.
now, you know.
Bro. The
Yeah.
tariffs.
Oh.
The tariffs.
Yeah.
I think
Me
that
trying to buy a vintage sweater, getting hit by like
the
fucking
tariff.
120% tariffs. Jesus, Mary Joseph.
The other interesting thing about Ken is that he's always smiling in a way that is unnerving to me personally. I don't know if he had veneers in this episode, but every time he smiled, it's as if he smiled as if he had veneers. I don't know how to describe it other than that. I know it was like a fake smile for sure, because he just wanted to get Columbo on the wrong trail by going, oh, here's a bunch of misleading evidence. Obviously he was a hitman, and obviously he was doing organized crime. But like the way that he smiled, that like, sorry, apologize. I'm sleepy.
Yeah, you're gonna make me yawn now.
I'm trying not to yawn. I don't talk very often during the day, and now that I am talking late at night, the Columbo puts me. Columbo helps me get sleepy / pause, right? Because like it's like
kind of a comfort show.
it is literally my comfort show. I've seen the show, went through the seasons like 3 or 4 times. Just have it on the background while I do other stuff. This is the second time. Well, no, this is the first time Ken Penders played a killer. There's another episode where he plays a killer as well, and that episode is also very good. It's the magic one.
You just had an incredible Freudian slip, Tiago.
What do you mean?
You called him Ken Penders, who is a very different person.
Oh
We're
my
talking
God.
about Jack Cassidy, not Ken Penders.
Yo.
Tiago's just hung himself out to dry.
No,
here with this
wait.
Oh, dear.
one. What if Ken Penders wrote a Columbo episode?
It'd probably be fine. Maybe. I don't know.
Give him a break.
Oh man.
Fuck, dude.
Now, just one more question for you. You said that you like chili dogs, but yet you haven't paused to take time to finish the one on your plate. These things, they bother me.
Christ.
You said you lost all your rings, but yet
on your very fingers.
Oh my God.
We gotta get out. I'm closing the door. I'm closing the door with this one. I'm locking.
Columbo can't catch. All right.
I don't want to accuse a real man of anything. What if he listens?
I was entering into the world in which Columbo was trying to catch Sonic the Hedgehog.
He wouldn't listen. Sonic didn't do anything wrong. He's speed personified. He's speed perfected. Okay, that's his only crime. Sonic is.
If anything, you could say that maybe Sonic is the complete opposite of Columbo
Yes,
in almost all ways.
but they're both cool.
But they're still both good.
Yeah,
But they are the opposite. It's not like one of them's the evil version. It's just
they're the opposite.
they're both opposites, but on the good spectrum.
Spectrum of good.
I'm still slippy. That's the issue. Is that like I don't know how to continue with this in any way because I'm just thinking about one, why did I do that? And two,
Jack Cassidy.
Jack
Cassidy as Dr. Eggman.
God damn, he'd be a great Eggman too. I can see the smile. Just put a mustache over him on this episode.
Yeah.
He literally has a mustache in the magician episode.
Yeah, he does. He does.
All right.
We'll get to that one day.
Yeah. Ben, say something else.
Okay. This episode is written by Stephen Bochco, I believe is how you say his name, who is one of the co-creators of Doogie Howser, MD.
Who? Can I be honest with you? I know the name. Never interacted with Doogie Howser. Doogie Howser?
Doogie Howser is a show from the 90s starring Neil Patrick Harris as a teenage doctor.
There was no way.
You've never seen any Doogie Howser?
What?
No.
What on?
This is man. We are riding like the exact line of millennial difference between like we're seeing the stridation. It's like we're seeing the geological segmentation between millennials here, in that I know about Doogie Howser, but you don't, right?
All right, everyone in this chat right now, raise your hand if you know who Doogie Howser is. I'm not raising my hand.
I've heard the name,
I
but
am not.
I didn't have a lot of television access as a child, if that makes sense. Or even a young adult.
Ben, I am looking up Doogie Howser right now. Did you know that there was a spinoff in 2024? 2021?
I think I heard about this.
It's called Doogie Kame Aloha MD, where it's
What?
where it's an American. It's based on Doogie Howser, but it's like this Hawaiian girl. There's no way I'm gonna get her fucking name right. Like Lahela Doogie Kame Aloha. It's a Disney Plus show.
What the hell?
I guess that's who owns the rights now, because who else would?
Right, but what? Why are they related? Do you think Neil Patrick Harris shows up like as?
I don't know.
As Doogie?
The last time I heard about Neil Patrick Harris, personally speaking, the last time I've even thought about him before we just spoke about Doogie Howser right now,
Okay.
was when I listened to the episode of A More Civilized Age, in which they went to the Star Wars hotel and they coyly talked around the fact that Neil Patrick Harris sat at the table next to them. And I believe, I forget, I don't think he made any trouble, but they were just like shocked that he was just right there with his family next to them. And they talked around it until somebody just straight up said his name. And they were like, wait, are we supposed to talk about that? So I just like to think that Neil Patrick Harris and his family loved Star Wars so much that they went to the Star Wars hotel a week or two before it closed, right? They were one of the last people in there.
Yeah, they probably
I feel like
did.
if
to
your kids
see that place before it got turned into an office.
If your kids love it, like, and you're rich, like, I would try it, you know? I'd
You
be
might
like,
as well,
yeah,
right?
okay, kids. Like, let's give it a shot.
All right.
We've gone so astray. Is this the most astray
You know,
we've been?
Yeah, Ben and I are
Absolutely
turning this
not.
into a Star Wars podcast again.
No,
It keeps happening. It keeps
it does
happening.
always
One day.
seem
One day.
I have a quote here
Thank God.
about Columbo
okay.
from one and only Shu Takumi.
Thank God.
What? Ain't
This
no way.
is from a conversation that he had leading up to the release of Great Ace Attorney, along with mystery writer Okuda Takahiro, who has written the Lieutenant Fukue series, I believe.
Sick.
So I'm not super familiar with it, but that might be something we touch on one day. Anyway, they talk about their love of Columbo during this kind of interview. They're like interviewing each other, right?
Mhm.
Kind of conversation. And Takumi talks about Columbo. He says, when I was a kid, I used to record the audio of Columbo episodes on a cassette tape and listen to them in my room. But the one I listened to most was Negative Reaction. Looking back, I think it has all the essentials of Columbo, the surprise ending, but there's also the part where Columbo is mistaken for a homeless guy.
Mm-hmm.
It has everything Columbo. If I needed to recommend one episode, it would be Negative Reaction. And then, they go back and forth about it and what they like about it. And then he mentions the Japanese dubbing was great too. So he would listen to the Japanese dub Columbo episodes, record them onto his cassette as a kid, and play them back in his bedroom when he couldn't watch TV anymore for the evening.
I mean, honestly, kind of sick.
Yeah, that's very I'm trying to think
Takumi
what I'm
coded.
going for. The funny thing is like these Columbo episodes, my understanding is they did audio dramas of some of these episodes occasionally. Now, granted, those did not come out in Japan. Those were mostly here.
Mm-hmm.
But they did do some radio drama style adaptations of some of these episodes that I believe all the same or most of the same actors performed on. But again, that's not something I'm super tuned in on, and how many of those exist and that sort of thing. But from when he was a kid, he was absorbing just one more thing.
Just one more
which
thing.
is kind of fun.
Literally I want to talk. It's incredible, the one more thing, right? Because I feel like that happens a lot in Ace Attorney. The one more testimony.
It's when he takes off. It's when he takes off his bumbling fool mask and asks the real hard question.
Yeah, why did you bring your fucking mail in today? What's up with that?
Sort of the equivalent of like when you're asking your bumbling questions and like Corner starts playing and you're like, oh, I'm bumbling in the right direction. Let me get him.
Yes. It's interesting because at the very breakdown at the end, Columbo admits that like, you almost fucking had me. Like I couldn't nail it. Like I couldn't get the last piece of information. And it is cathartic to have that moment where it's like you have the final piece of information, the final piece of evidence to nail him to the fucking wall. And it is always a satisfying feeling. And you get to see Columbo have that, and it's pretty good.
Yeah, I think the games do a good job teasing you with like almost having that stuff, and then they pull it out from under you. And then you do finally get it at the end.
Yeah, you gotta get him at the
fun
end.
little breakdown. Yep.
I mean, like, I feel like you, the player, have to, because that's how it works. You are the protagonist.
That's what makes the Lego Racers go.
Sure.
Yeah, no, that makes
Sorry, that's what makes the game go, is what I mean.
No, was that your slip, sir?
No.
No, he definitely. That was intentional, 100,000%.
Yeah.
I'm referencing an existing game design book about how you make the Lego Racers go.
That's how you make the Lego Racers go.
Through play and imagination. But yes, I mean, it's a game, so thus we have to have certain structures to it, right? Whereas in a show, we can ensure that the story is constructed in such a way to get to a certain point. You don't got to drag anybody along, and get them to press certain buttons, or convince them to make them feel like they're controlling the story, or however you want to, make the gameplay happen, right? Or interpret how, change how the story is being interpreted by the player. Instead, yeah, it's visuals and sound colliding, and it just goes in a certain order. But obviously, you still have to construct the script in such a way that doesn't pull the viewer out of it. I think, in general, with this episode, it's really, really solid for the most part. I think the final gotcha is a little on the soft side as far as Columbo gotchas go.
Nothing beats the art episode.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't watched that art episode, you should get on that shit.
Well, that's on our list.
It's on our list. That might
be the next Columbo episode we do when we circle back around.
I mean, you mentioned the one that he recommended. I feel like it would be
silly not.
It's it would be a shame not to do that one in particular that was mentioned in the interview.
Oh yeah, no, trust me, that one is also on the list.
It can't not be.
If you start looking at my list of items that I've compiled here, my Columbo episode selection continues to grow because every once in a while I go, well, that episode has this and this, and that would be really good to have on the
We're
show.
gonna end up
So
watching all of
add that.
Columbo, I think.
Yeah. Eventually, I might have just every single Columbo season
What if I
on
just
here.
start a podcast about Columbo?
I mean, honestly,
Maybe.
sick, but well, I'm not opposed actually.
Don't worry, I've got at least 7 Columbo episodes on the list right now, so we'll have plenty.
Nice.
I think
So,
this
yeah,
Columbo.
go ahead, sorry.
I'm just trying to scrounge whatever thoughts I can because I'm unfortunately sleepy and I'm now heading off to Slumberland, which means that I need to start podcasting at my ass off. This episode has amazing cinematography because obviously it's cinematography because it's done by Spielberg. The lighting on some of these characters' faces are magnificent. I know we're talking about it, but I do think the average person should go see this episode. If you have not seen this episode and you're just listening to us talk, please go watch it because you'll see a filmmaking technique that simply does not exist nowadays. There is the
amount of shadow usage in this episode alone is like really solid. Like there's some really clever use of just lighting and shadow in general. Like I said, I already talked about the blocking. I think the blocking in this episode is just bang on pretty much across the board.
The specific one I'm thinking of is when he is having dinner with the witness who's blackmailing him, and the shadow on their face, like they're both completely black except for the white of his eyes as he says something, and you could see him like look at her face for any reaction, and she is just not reacting, and it's just like, damn, that is a man who is cornered and knows that he's cornered and has to do something about it. It's, oh my god.
Yeah, and here's about that scene. I don't know if I'm reading too much into it, but behind
As a Star Wars fan.
behind Jack Cassidy, he is completely wreathed on either side by red, right? All the time. Whereas she is dressed in red and you just see a little bit of red behind her, but she has a big window showing like the city skyline behind her, right? So like when the camera cuts back to him, it's just like all draped in red, all like red walls all behind him, right? Like he's the fucking devil. And when you cut back to her, then it's like instead the red is creeping in, you know, it's starting to creep in around her. But it has not fully overtaken her. Again, could just be a happy accident, but the fact that, you know, you can make those reads is what it makes a good filmmaker, right? It gives you that wiggle room to start interpreting things however you'd like.
God, it's so fucking good. Here's the issue that I'm running into is that like I'm not an expert in any of these fields whatsoever, so like I don't know how to critique something, but like the pure joy that like Columbo gives me just in like these kinds of episodes where you really are watching a film. I know that it's supposed to be like a made for TV movie, but like it fucking rules. You don't see techniques like this anymore, you know, like when you fucking...
They don't put this is not the kind of stuff that they want to put out anymore because it's not, they don't think it'll make money the same way it used to. It doesn't get the views the same way it used to. So
we do live in a different society.
God damn.
There was a later episode, I forget which one, but there was originally they were going to have Orson Welles on as a villain for one episode.
God.
And the reason it did not happen is because the movie studio did not want to pay up for him.
Orson Welles is in France, probably.
And Peter Falk was very upset about that because he was like, "Man, you mean you got money for this person and this person, this person, but you won't shell out the money for Orson Welles?"
My goat,
I think it'd be worth it. And yeah, they didn't. So we'll get to plenty of other great guest stars over the coming Columbo episodes, but yeah, I'm skipping through the episode now, and when Jack Cassidy comes back in from his boating expedition, right, in the morning, he's walking back, he's coming back to his cabin, and we see him walk through the cabin, right, past all these big windows. and then you see Columbo behind the window
Oh.
walk
Dude,
up, and
yeah.
he raps on the
Sneaking
window,
in.
and he just it is such a delightful little like appearance. He just kind of slides in,
It made me
and
laugh
then
so much. I forgot.
and Jack Cassidy in the foreground, you get to see him react, and you get the reaction shot from him and him going, "Oh fucking hell!"
Yeah, he taps on the window like hee hee.
Yeah. Again, just one of those things where it's like, when we were watching it, I was like, "That's a Jaws moment again." Right? I was just like, like the fin coming through the water, but instead it's this shabby detective popping up behind the glass windows.
It's the person with the shark fin on their head popping up out of the water.
The detective is the shark.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and he's very slowly but methodically pursuing his prey.
The predator became the prey.
Uh,
God,
It's poetry. It writes itself.
it writes itself. I think that if I'm still trying to absorb the sentence, you thought it was a weak way to catch him at the very end with the.
I'm not saying it's weak. I'm just saying it's a little soft, right? It is the kind of thing where sometimes it's nice to have like a real solid gotcha, and instead this is just a gotcha, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I don't know. Unfortunately I can't think of a better thing, right? So hey.
I mean,
it's not like I'm not writing one of the best episodes of TV, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
But sometimes it feels like it would be nice to have something a little like harder, because it does feel like that if Ken was just a little bit more clever, he would have gotten away with this scot-free, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
But he's
instead
not
he
the
just kind of
writer.
goes, you got me at the end, which obviously is always a little satisfying in its own right to see
most Columbo villains.
a little bit of the respectable, like, detective, I thought I might have gotten you, but
I feel like a lot
you got
of
me.
Columbo villains do that. Not Columbo villains, but also like an Ace Attorney, where you finally break them down and they simply like admit to the truth and all that. I think the only person who has ever broken down and then had to be fucking escorted. Well, no, there's probably tons of people who've been escorted outside the courthouse after their breakdown, because I'm thinking of Von Karma bashing his head against the fucking wall. I'm thinking of people
Honestly,
who
normal reaction to just like having a bad day.
honestly just a normal reaction. I'm definitely thinking of like a couple Ace Attorney cases where they go, well, what happened to the killer? And someone else goes, well, he had to go to the hospital because he had a really bad breakdown.
But then he's going right to jail.
He's going right to jail, and nothing bad happens to them in jail. They're all fine in the big house.
Von Karma is dead.
He gets killed by the prison industrial complex. One that he even laid the foundation for.
Rip to a real one. You helped make this.
Rip to a real one. These bricks are falling on you.
Mm-hmm. If it isn't the consequences of my own actions, etc., etc.
Ken,
in a prison of their own making.
It feels. I don't know how to quite describe this, but this feels like a case 1-2. You know what I mean? This feels like the second case of an Ace Attorney game. Not sure. 1-2
well, I guess
literally.
It was the first episode after the pilot, right? So like it kind of is.
It kind of is, right? Because like, to me, this feels like a case in which that like if it was our boy Phoenix Wright, he'd be doing this after the tutorial, because I don't think he would have been able to solve it just going in blind with no investigation. He would have had to investigate it. This is my hello everybody, welcome to my Ace Attorney / Columbo fanfic, in which I write what happens in a Columbo episode if it was our boy Phoenix Wright, or other attorney that I feel like mentioning at the time. I feel like he would have had to do a little bit of investigating in this case in particular, because, well,
I feel like we could have had like a really cute like Cyclox segment where it's like he's lying about something, and you get like a false trail where he's lying about how he helped write the novels where he just like didn't do any of the writing and his like buddy just did it all.
Yeah.
So you get like a false like not a false positive, but like a red herring.
Yeah.
With the Megatama.
I was also
That would
just
be
imagining.
fun.
I was imagining the fact that like the witness had to die in order for the case to be progressing, because it is at that point that Columbo realizes, like, once the second murder occurs, he can compare the two murders and realize, oh well, one of them was objectively better than the other. What happened, man? You really fell off. You're washed up now, Ken. You're nothing. You're smoking. You're vapid. Except for your really cool turtleneck. I'm so jealous of the turtleneck. We gotta bring him back.
Or a couple ascots, too.
Dude,
You can do it.
You think I could rock a turtleneck?
Yeah. I can rock a turtleneck. We could do it together.
Are you just saying that, or do you mean it?
No, I actually like turtlenecks. Like,
Okay,
I
thank
think they
you.
look good.
I don't think there's a lot of people out there that would look bad in a turtleneck.
Really?
We should bring them back.
You know, the best time to wear a striped sweater.
When?
When is it?
All the time.
All the time?
All the time.
Hey, Despy wrote.
One with a collared turtleneck.
Is this a SpongeBob reference?
Is this a SpongeBob thing?
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Okay. I thought we were starting a new fashion podcast. I'm so glad we're on track.
Yeah, I could see you guys walking into that one.
Yeah, like a big
I let it
fucking
happen.
bird.
That's like one of the biggest like SpongeBob things that whatever.
I didn't have Nickelodeon. I had no cable.
I'm not saying you, Rose. I'm saying
Wait, me?
Tiago should have
What the hell? Sorry, I don't get every reference. My brain is fried and my ass is numb. And
Okay, well,
I was gonna say dumb as if like a dumbass, but I said numb, and now
silly.
now we're stuck with it.
we're stuck with it. Haha.
Yep, now we're all
gonna
here.
immortalize
Ha-ha.
that.
We're all sitting in this conversation pit together.
We should all do cigars
Oh
together.
my god. When you guys come up, we need to record the podcast in a conversation pit.
Where the
I'm
fuck are
gonna
we
find
gonna...
us a conversation pit.
Okay, never
Ben,
mind. I guess
this is
We
my
have to
promise
go rent
you.
one.
Okay. This sounds like a plan. Yes, we should absolutely. Next time we all visit together in person, yes, we'll record a podcast together, a bonus episode of IRL podcast chat. There you go.
Where the hell are you gonna find a conversation pit in Boston, Massachusetts?
We'll figure it
I'm
out.
Googling.
We'll go to the beach and dig one out of the sand.
Literally, the second this podcast is over, I'm just going to start looking for, like, conversation pits.
I'm gonna be honest with you. You do not want to go to the beach in Massachusetts. Not the beach that we have accessible to the
Yeah.
sea.
Well,
That's
we could
understandable.
go up to, like, hop on the commuter rail, you know?
Okay,
That could be nice.
sure. Now I sound rude, and I'm gonna stop. Everyone listening to this right now, take an opportunity to realize that if you think you're being rude, you can just stop at any moment. You just shut the hell up.
This is true.
You know?
Yep. Just put the brakes on
Yeah.
it.
Chill. You know?
Activate the handbrake.
Dessy posted a very cute picture of a koala.
That's my koala. Thanks.
Thanks. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you for
that's
acknowledging
Columbo
it.
then. Folks.
Well, no, I can scratch. God, I feel
Yeah.
extremely brain dead for some reason. I love Columbo so much, and yet I feel like I've. You ever have a moment in your life where you're like, I've been waiting for this my whole life, but finally an opportunity to talk about one of my hyperfixations that you, Ben, introduced me to, and I have nothing. I'm on stage right now, and I can't talk about my favorite friend, Columbo.
That's what happens to me anytime anybody comes over to our house. I get excited that somebody's coming over to the house, and then I realize when they get here that I have nothing to talk about.
God, so real, Des. Except I'm not in your house.
It's like, thanks for coming over. I'm glad you came over. This is my house. And they were like, so what's been going on in your life? And you go, absolutely nothing.
There's stuff going on, probably.
Not anything that's exciting to talk about.
Oh, yeah, fair.
You want me to talk about my job? I'd rather
We
not.
could dress up like Columbo next time we meet up.
You have cats. Oh, I did Columbo for Halloween one year. That
That's
was fun.
sad.
Yeah.
I
I
do
don't think
recall
we've
that.
talked about that. I made my own fake cigar. I still have the coat. I had a
Why'd you
lovely
make a
time.
fake cigar? You could just go get a real one.
Some people don't smoke.
You don't have to smoke the cigar. Just go get it.
I wouldn't want to. That's.
I
why?
would rather make a fake cigar out of paper and paint than give my money to a tobacco
I was
company.
gonna say
To Big
that costs significantly
Tobacco!
less.
Big tobacco is real and absolutely a thing, and I don't want them to have my money. It's so easy to make a prop cigar. You could buy a prop cigar. You could make a prop cigar.
No, you're so correct. I just didn't think that I was falling for Big Tobacco when I looked at my
I'm
coolest
so sorry
friend,
that you've been
Columbo.
fooled by Big Tobacco. It's not your fault. So many Americans before you have also been fooled by Big Tobacco.
Holy cow.
I'm just looking here. The cinematographer.
Cinematographer?
Yeah, the cinematographer for this episode, Russell Meddy. He did 5 different Columbo episodes. But just looking here. Cinematographer for Spartacus. 1960s Spartacus. The one and only.
Hey, Ben.
Yeah?
I've never seen it.
That's okay. It's the Spartacus movie, you know? I am Spartacus.
As somebody who was born in the
Kubrick
90s,
Spartacus.
As somebody who was born in the 90s, there are a lot of shows from previous generations that I've not seen.
Mm-hmm.
So it's okay if you've never seen something.
I just Googled it. I found the 2010 drama series, and that can't be the right.
Yeah, no, we're talking about the original film by Kubrick. Anyway, also a good movie. Anyway, just to explain why some of the cinematography is good. Hey,
I mean,
guy's done some good shit before.
God, I feel like the cinematography in this one is also like different from other Columbo episodes in some way that I can't quite comprehend. There's like a couple shots where he lingers on the officers investigating the location and stuff like that, and I feel like in modern time there wouldn't be a montage where it's just like fucking just a couple shots of people just walking around handling shit and moving around the room, no like music happening, nothing whimsical. It's just straight up, this is what happens when somebody is like supposedly killed, is that their room are surrounded with a bunch of people and you have to deal with them. But
right,
yeah,
there's something with older productions like this. There are some limitations placed on how the cinematography can be done in the first place because cameras were so big, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, I noticed there's an in-car shot, right, earlier on in the episode when Ken and Jim are driving up to the cabin, right? So the guy had to sit in the back seat with this big ass film camera rolling, right?
Oh, you know,
and film between the two guys as they're
Bro had
driving
a car
around
inside
the
his car.
Yeah. So yeah, sometimes that kind of stuff just, you know, obviously you can be creative with no matter what tools you have, you know. But sometimes the limitations of like, oh, this camera's so big, or it's so heavy, or it needs to be on this tripod, or it needs to be, you know, this or that. That then determines like, okay, well, we're going to try to shoot it this way or that way to get around these limitations. And that, you know, that's fun.
Mm-hmm.
If everything's shot on an iPhone and then you can just whip it around wherever you want, you know, sometimes you don't think as carefully about where the camera's pointing that.
I'm sick of vertical video format.
No one likes the video. All my homies hate vertical format.
Give me 4:3 or 16:9, or give me death.
Give me liberty.
I will say, this was also something that Dessy, you mentioned this when we were watching the one scene in which Falk and Cassidy get real close up, you know, between the two
like
each other.
so close they look like they're gonna smooch.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because it's 4:3, you know,
Yeah.
so there's only so much room for the faces to fit in the camera, you know, in the shot. So they've got to get close together to do this like real close up brooding shot of Columbo being like, you know, can I ask you a question? You know, and you really got to get up in there.
You gotta get up in there. God. Oh, I love
But
Columbo.
yeah, I mean, all the.
I too would get very close to Peter Falk's face if I had the choice, but you know.
all the parts are here, right? We've got our Columbo prototype nearly solidified. He's a little more like, he lets a little more slip a little sooner, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think later Columbo might not say some of the things that he does to Ken in this episode, like the stuff about the bills maybe, or the timing on when he was driving down. Like later Columbo might let that slide for a little bit longer before he confronts him. But it's basically here. It's basically all the parts are here, and we are going to see more Jack Cassidy because he shows up as a villain multiple times, which is really good. And Peter Falk really starts to find the character here. After only they only filmed one other episode before this, and before that was the pilot, right? So it's basically 3 shots out, and this is the 4th time doing it, and already it's kind of taken form.
Mm-hmm.
Got it in 3.
3.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Let me make you an egg, but first let me destroy your entire kitchen. You have to seriously do so many dishes.
Yeah.
That's going to bother you, isn't it?
Yeah, why did he have to use so many dishes?
He's not good at it.
Yeah. This is funny.
But he said he was good at making omelets.
He said he was good at making omelets. He didn't say he was good at prepping for the omelet.
That's part of making an omelet.
If you say so, I'll believe
Bro's wife let him off with so much. Mrs. Columbo.
You've never had the omelet, so maybe you don't know.
Neither did whatever her name was.
Fuck, you're right.
Joanna.
Joanna?
Wasn't that the wife's name?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, Joanna's the wife's name. Yep.
Anyway,
yeah. Let's do segments at the end here. Takumi Touchstone.
Oh, jeez.
What's your one thing, your scene, your line, or part of the mystery that felt particularly like Ace Attorney to you? Or if nothing jumps out at you, what is your favorite part of the story overall?
I feel like I talked about it already a little bit, but mine was the fact that, like, every time that Columbo was interacting with the killer, it always seemed like he was using the press option. Literally every opportunity, he was just like, press.
Pressing to embarrass him rather than pressing to get more information.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think mine is the I think it's really I genuinely like the little tiny deductions that Columbo makes early on with the bills and the timing of the car drive, like I mentioned just a few minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are like some of the basics that really make up the style of contradiction that we encounter through Ace Attorney again and again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It's just human behavior, strange things that are out of place that then you then have to reverse engineer into, well, what would make this slightly off behavior make more sense, right? Oh, you opened up your bills because you were expecting that there was a dead body and you were not in shock, right? That kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, yeah, that's just good old classic reverse deductions, some turnabouts, if you might say.
What?
And yeah, I think it's fun to just see the archetype of Columbo that would eventually become so popular in Japan, right? Like Columbo was incredibly popular in Japan. It's why I got a dub in there in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And there have been like 100 different Columbo parodies or riffs or shows that take the same like format and do their own thing with it too. Which, who knows, we may cover some of that in the future depending on how the show goes. But Yeah, so that's always fun to see as well, I think.
Hmm.
Mm.
Hmm.
I mean, I do feel like it's something we touch on all the time, but we do get a little bit of a witness breakdown here. Like, you show him a piece of evidence that it's like damning but not necessarily definitive, and he just goes, it was me, fuck. It's
He's
not
like, you got me, oh shucks.
There's something I enjoy about a Columbo villain is like some of them obviously are not that clever, but some of them are smart enough to be like, well, you got me, all right.
You son
And I
of a bitch.
love that. Like, that's a fun villain for me. A villain who goes, well, okay, that was my game, pretty good.
Fair play,
Yep.
sir.
I couldn't have foreseen that.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoy
Right.
that in a villain, and I enjoy that in Columbo. Don't get a lot of it in Ace Attorney, but I think it's a fun little contrast between the two. Because usually in Ace Attorney, like, you explode, or squirrels come out of your clothes, or lightning hits you, or whatever. You go to hell.
Right. It's got to be extra dramatic.
Yeah. And so
You go to hell before you
Whereas,
the quick wrap up is kind of funny.
Yeah, whereas yes, Columbo villains, are usually much more sedate, or just in general like collected, in their breakdowns. But yeah, Ace Attorney has to turn everything up to 11.
die. I think Columbo's a silly, whimsical guy like Phoenix.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Get some of that silly energy in there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just a little silly guy. I thought of something and then it completely left my brain when you started talking. So I forgot.
That's all right. Alrighty. Well, if anybody has any last thoughts about
Let
Murder
me
by
tell
the
you, my
book.
favorite part is when Peter Falk was there.
That makes sense.
Damn.
anytime Peter Falk is not on screen, folks should be asking, "Where's Peter Falk?"
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm asking, "Where's Peter Falk?" every single goddamn day of my life. I'll tell you that much.
Nobody tell him.
Oh.
Alrighty. Well, I think that will do it for us then this week, folks. Thank you so much for listening. We're glad that you are sticking around here for Ace Attorney, an updated autopsy report as we kind of are doing something new.
If
You
you
can
haven't
keep-
watched Columbo, go watch Columbo.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard from folks who have been reading along with us for some of the books so far, so we hope that you'll watch Columbo as well.
What? That's
It's
crazy.
it's really good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we will have some more soon. You can keep up with the show via our website, updatedautopsy.report, which has links to everything we do and all of our social media accounts. And we also have a YouTube channel, which features all of our old Ace Attorney Let's Plays and other fun videos at youtube.com/@Yotsuben. You can follow me on pretty much all social media at Yotsuben. Dessy, where can people find you?
I'm Dessy on Blue Sky and probably somewhere digging through the Transformers rumors. What the heck are those called? Forums?
The forums.
The Reddit?
Yeah. No, there's forums.
Okay.
For specifically, just like
BB Code forums, baby.
Hell yeah, dude.
Tiago, how about you?
You can find me at Tiago S. Dutra on various social medias, up to and including Blue Sky.
And Rose.
Yeah, you can find me on Blue Sky where I'm like hanging out and sometimes posting art, and I'm trying to get to more of that. And you can also find me searching every restaurant in the greater Boston area to find one that will let me reserve a conversation pit.
Holy shit.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening. We hope that you'll rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform, because those reviews really do help us get the word out for our show. We do not spend any money on advertising. And if you tell people about it, maybe they'll listen. hopefully, if we leave a review, we will often read those on the air as well. I do not have any new ones at the moment, so leave one and you'll be next in line. Next time, we will be discussing G.K. Chesterton's The Innocence of Father Brown. See you next time. Bye.
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 We went to the Brighton Bazaar today, and there was someone selling taxidermy.
I met our high school health teacher.
I didn't want to talk about that. I was just gonna let that go. But yeah, we ran into our high school health teacher.
Chill. He was always chill.
He was chill. Yeah, I don't have anything against him. It's just that I don't want to name drop him. I just want him to be fine.
Well, we're not name dropping him.
Yeah, I was
wearing my letter jacket, that said the name of our high school on the back, and he was like, "Hey, did you go to that school? What year?" And I was like, "This man looks familiar." Oh no. No, he was decent. He was always like, "I don't give a fuck what you do, just don't smoke fucking cigarettes." And we were like, "Okay."
Pretty
like,
reasonable thing for a teacher
you're gonna
to say.
smoke weed. I know you are. Don't smoke cigarettes.
There was a taxidermy person there, and they had wet and dry specimens, and they had some of the saddest wet specimens I've ever seen in my life. I consider
sad human eyes.
I consider, well, they weren't human. Let's be perfectly clear. They were not human eyes.
Yeah, they were not, but it was sad. They were sad eyes.
It's just that, like, I consider myself someone who has, like, a
Real
decent
ones will know
stomach.
what
There were kittens, alright? There were kittens in the jars, and I was like, this is hard to look, like, even this here now. Like, I consider myself someone who could handle wet specimens, but for some reason, the kitten in the jar got me.
Yeah, I did not look at it. I was I have sense of disturbance in the force, and I'm going this way now. The eel was cool, though.
The eel was tight as fuck. You see, the second you put a mammal in a jar, somehow it becomes way too real. It, like, upsets me in a way I wasn't... Eel, fish, fine, totally sure. Lizard, that makes sense. But, like, yo, a kitten? Like, come on. I don't know.
I feel like we ought to start the podcast.
Yeah, I feel like if I talk any further, I'm gonna lose whatever... I don't know what cred. I don't know if I have this cred or whatsoever, but I also feel like for some reason, the taxidermy person will hear this, find me, and beat me to death.
No!
So, it's so possible.
Nice.
Oh yeah, they were fantastic people. They were so kind. It's just that I didn't have the stomach for what they were doing, and that's on me.
Not everything is for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you were just not picking up what they were putting down, and that's okay.
I'm about to tear up just thinking about it. It was so sad.
We need to do the podcast.
Let's do the podcast. I have a hard stop bedtime I need to adhere to, or I'll die.